2, 3, 4.
Welcome to Don't Do That, the podcast where we talk about what not to do at work and beyond.
As equity practitioners, we found ourselves often thinking that folks should stop doing things before they start doing things. Hence the title of our podcast, Don't Do That. I'm Ani. I'm an equity coach, organizational equity strategist, and educator with a deep curiosity for how to improve systems and a commitment to lift others as I continue to learn and grow.
I'm Karen, and I've worked in social justice for over a decade. I'm a consultant, coach, and thought partner. My purpose is to make community matter. I do that by helping leaders create better work environments. Adi and I met as consultants and quickly became friends. Collectively, we have over 25 years of experience navigating equity, inclusion, and justice in the workplace. Don't Do That is a platform to tell stories about making mistakes at work and how to fix them. The views on this podcast are our own. We do not speak on behalf of our organizations or the communities we mention. All right, welcome listeners to Don't Do That. Today we are discussing the job market and the best strategies to land your next gig. Now we are joined by one of my favorite people, Rory Verrett. He is an executive recruiter, coach, one of my mentors, author of The Pomegranate Principle, and guru of all things Lisbon. So thanks and welcome to the show, Rory.
So happy to be here with the superstar Karen Driscoll and Ani, who must be a superstar as well, because superstars keep the same company.
Absolutely.
That's right. I'll take it.
So Rory, before we jump into our conversation, we would love for you to introduce yourself, but we like for you to tell folks something that they wouldn't find on your resume.
Okay. I'll start with the bio. I celebrate 20 years in executive search this year. I run Protégé Search, which is a global executive search firm focused on recruiting purpose-driven leaders for mission-driven organizations. So our clients include Patagonia, the American Medical Association, Tapestry, New America, Dillard University, Howard University, ERM, the global sustainability consulting firm, McKinsey, and others. And I'm also an executive coach. I coach through a framework I call the Sovereign Path, which is a framework to help purpose-driven leaders remain purpose-driven despite the pressures and temptations that they might have in their career to deviate off their path. In terms of something different, I ride bikes a lot. I think about bikes a lot. Like the thought bubble over my head most days is, do I need a fifth bike? And the answer is yes, I do need a fifth bike. I need a foldable bike that I can travel around the world with so that I can be a geek in a helmet on one of those little tiny bikes you see people riding around. I'm going to be that guy. I can't wait to get my Brompton in a couple of weeks.
Love it.
No, I didn't know 5 bikes. That's
Five.
quite the collection.
5.
Well, I love that. You might get me into bike riding. We'll have to chat after the show. But I want to start with just a little bit of context, given that we're talking about the job market today. We know that this is relevant to a lot of folks, especially at this time. And the job market, as we know, it has really changed. This administration, with the help of DOGE, has gutted many federal agencies, and the government shutdown that just ended furloughed many employees, and there are other sectors that are facing shrinking budgets and increasing tariffs. So folks are looking at the job market in a whole new way. And not to mention, AI is threatening to replace, human workers. And this can all be very disorienting to folks. So I wanted to ground us in some stats. So in researching for today's episode, I found a CNN article that talked about more than 450,000 women have dropped out of the U.S. labor market since January of this year. And outside of the pandemic, it's one of the steepest declines on record, and it's being dubbed the she session. Now, when we double click on that, we know, and as of currently, Black and African American women have a higher unemployment rate compared to other groups, especially white women. And while this is a long-term trend, the rate among Black and African American women reached 6.7% in August, which is more than twice the rate of white women at 3.2%. And this figure hasn't been seen since 2021. We also know that Black women are concentrated in the public sector and nonprofits and care work. And those are the sectors that have also been hit the hardest. So we thought that this was a really important topic, especially where you are in this day to day. And we know that folks are really looking to figure out how do they land their next gig? How can they make ends meet in a job market that feels like it is a needle in the haystack?
Mhm.
So can you tell us, Rory, how do you think that folks should be making sense of this moment right now?
That's an excellent setup to a very complicated answer. I'll try to simplify it. This is the worst job market I've seen in my lifetime. I'm 55 years old. I've been working for 30 years. There is nothing close. 08, 09 is not close. The dot-com bubble bursting is not close. COVID is the closest, but by a factor, it's very different because COVID was a momentary freeze in the world for about 6 months, and then things picked up. The analogy I like to make to bring it home is that this is the Katrina of the job market. I'm a New Orleans native. Katrina was a combination of factors that New Orleanians had dreaded for our lifetimes, like what was going to be and when was going to be the big storm that destroyed the city. And you had storm surge winds. You had literally a perfect storm in a negative way that decimated the city. This is the Katrina of the job market. So what happens? What happened in Katrina? You might have had plans on September 3rd to go to Dookie Chase restaurant, the acclaimed Creole restaurant, and have a meal for 10 people. You've got a different plan now on September 3rd, if that is your appointment. You have to now think about securing the basics and then rebuilding. And that's the metaphor I give people, that this, if you face the facts of what's happening now, it is not just enough to send your resume out to job applications on LinkedIn or do what you did 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 15 years ago to secure employment or to be actively engaged as a professional. It requires an entirely different strategy.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really helpful analogy. And as someone that actually has recently went through a Hurricane Melissa, when I was in Jamaica, I learned that rebuilding is the hardest part.
It is
So
very difficult. Yeah. And it takes
yeah.
a long time.
And on that thread, just thinking about how Katrina impacted people, so many people left and never came back. So thinking about like the analogy in the job market, how should people think about like defining or redefining themselves? So is this about like you might need to position yourself in a new career or a new industry?
Like Katrina, to keep the analogy going, it depends on where you are in the market. So there were people that when Katrina happened, they went outside, looked around, maybe swept their, front driveway and had a struggle to find food for a couple of weeks, and maybe power was out for a couple of weeks, but they were able to move to a family or friend's house for a period of time. And then they sort of got back into the rhythm. There's a corresponding group in the population, we'll get at that. Then there are people that were on the other side of the spectrum, were totally decimated. The lower Ninth Ward, if you drive through New Orleans right now, it looks like Katrina happened last week. Okay. And then there are a lot of people, most of us in the middle. My parents lost their house, they rebuilt it and then sold it. So they decided we're going to recoup the value of what we lost, and then we're going to move on. They moved to Atlanta and then North Carolina. The same is true in your career. For some of us, this will require a complete rebuild of our careers. That is the difficult message we have to send. I send to some of my clients is that this is going to be a complete rebuild of your career. For others, there are more moderate adjustments you have to make over time to evolve into a new professional version of yourself. And the assets and the tools you're using in that regard include going back to school, getting a certification, pivoting to an adjacent functional area in the business you're in or in the nonprofit you work in, privatizing your career or your profession, going as a consultant in the private market, creating a portfolio career where you do a little bit of consulting, some advisory work, perhaps for a startup, owning and running a small business, and having another set of revenue streams like speaking or writing that maybe you didn't do it before. Maybe you just had a W-2. But I think about the trailers that people had during Katrina that provided them with shelter. They didn't wait for their house to be built. So for some people, I think, for a lot of people, I think you've got to solve for the immediate need in your career. How are you generating income? How are you paying your bills? While simultaneously thinking about this evolution and how much you have to evolve to survive and thrive in this new reality, because the big unknown is how long will the market be like this? That's the thing with hurricanes. You don't know. We thought, okay, we'll go back and rebuild. Mom and dad came up to Atlanta. They'll go back in December. They never went back. Some people went back and rebuilt 2 weeks later. Some people went back a year later, right? We don't know how long this moment is going to last, but these other disasters teach us that we've got to do two things at the same time: secure your foundation immediately and then evolve for the long term professionally. And there are ways to do that. We can talk about that.
That's really helpful. It also makes me think about how a lot of us derive our worth from our careers, and
Mhm.
like our careers become an intricate part of our identities. And I think when you do lose a job, or you are, laid off by circumstances that you didn't choose, it can shake up a lot of like who you are and how you view yourself as a professional. And one of the things I know that you talked about was like the career algorithm and
Mhm.
how that can transcend like role and title. So would love for you to share a little bit more about what is the career algorithm and how can folks like use that in this moment.
Sure. In summary, the career algorithm is a framework I take clients through to help them understand what is the essence of their career success. What are the factors that bring them both joy and create impact and amazing outcomes in their career from the body of work of their career? Now, the analogy comes from music. Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson worked together for a decade. Quincy Jones had Michael Jackson essentially do three kinds of songs. He produced three kinds of songs: danceable disco tunes, Billie Jean, Beat It, Wanna Be Starting Something, Off the Wall, ballads, Lady in My Life, and the occasional humanitarian song, We Are the World. They didn't do any, fado, hip hop, opera. I mean, they didn't do any exotic kind of music. Quincy Jones had a formula that he knew worked with Michael Jackson. It was esoteric, deeply mystical lyrics at times that were both relatable but sort of inspirational. There was jazz influences based on Quincy Jones's background as a band leader, and they were approachable in terms of melody, tone, and tempo, and they were sort of happy songs. And so for 10 years, they dominated the charts. The analogy is that we have a body of work that creates our greatest hits. There are some things we did really well in our career. There's some things we did extraordinarily well in our career. And there's some B-side hits that never really did well. I mean, I pick on Liberian Girl, great song, not a chart topping hit the way Beat It was. And so what I do is I take clients through an analysis of their greatest hits, and we uncover what is the tone, tempo, and melody of those discrete moments in your career, and how can you forecast and replicate them for the rest of your career so that you continue to have the success of a chart topping superstar in your career, as opposed to in the second half of your career having these misses, having these unforced errors. One of the things I see as an executive recruiter is when we do these searches for these VP, SVP, CEO roles, the candidate who wins by a little. They may be the consensus choice, right? But it's like the Olympics. Sha'Carri Richardson is not beating people by like 20 seconds. She's beating them by 0.05.
Yeah.
Usain Bolt is beating them by 0.03. I mean, it's tiny degrees of distinction. And what's distinctive, what makes almost always the candidate who wins the role stand out, is something that people don't understand. They think it's, I'm not qualified for the job, or I don't have the right credentials, or I don't work. No, the candidate picked organizations and roles that allow them to play their greatest hits. They don't have after 35 or 40, the 1 year stint that didn't work out, the 2 year stint that didn't work out, the 18-month stint. Now, look, stuff happens in careers. Companies go bankrupt. There's toxicity, you move, whatever. But if you have 4 or 5 of those in a row and somebody else has 3 5-year stints where they can talk through amazing anecdotes of how they've been a transformational leader in 3 different organizations, and you've got 2 of them, 2.5 of them, 1 a 7-year stint, but 2 18-month stints, who do you think the search committee is going to give the job to? The person that has said, I can likely do this a 4th time. And so what I try to bring clients through and to think about is the discernment it takes for you to choose correctly. What is the venue that will allow me to play my greatest hits? Kendrick Lamar can walk into a bar in Compton and just go up there and freestyle rap. Taylor Swift probably can't do that. Taylor Swift probably can't do that. Kendrick Lamar can't probably go into Branson into a honky tonk bar and start freestyle rapping. Okay, so you gotta figure out, to use a musical analogy, you gotta figure out what's the venue for you, and this takes the burden off of the crazy boss, the toxic organization, and says, how are you choosing your organization? Are you choosing it based on title and prestige and how much money they're going to pay you? Or are you saying, will this venue allow me to play my greatest hits so that I can continue being the blockbuster superstar that I know I can be in my career?
It's a great reframing,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to challenge that a little bit, because I think so many people feel a great sense of urgency when they're in the job market. And what you're talking about, this creating a space for like ideating and imagining and, reflection, feels like a place of privilege that maybe some folks feel like they don't have access to. So how would you challenge folks who feel like, well, I don't have the time or space to be imagining this like cool thing that you're talking about? Like, I need to move quickly and get a job fast.
That's a great call out. And to be clear, the outcome from this is not, I figured it out, I want to be a mime in Paris, right?
Yeah.
You're an accountant with the Ford Foundation. I don't think that's your greatest hit. There's no evidence that you're going to be a great mime in a capital city in Europe. This gets you at what your core value proposition is. And so how can it guide you? It can guide you if you're in a role and it didn't work out and you got laid off. And maybe you got laid off and there's some blame to be cast on you because you were overconfident thinking you could do this functional role. You're in marketing, you think you do marketing and comms. Newsflash, they're not the same function, and you didn't do so well. Get back to basics, and you might find out that you're a VP of marketing and comms, and you take a VP of marketing role or a senior director of marketing role that you wouldn't take with your sort of secular mind thinking, what's next for me? What's next is an SVP role. No, you need to sort of take a lateral move. At one point in my career, I took a $400,000 pay cut.
Ooh.
$400,000 pay cut. Why? Because I wanted to rebuild a part of my career in a functional set of expertise that I made a decision. I want to commit myself to this. Where can I find a platform that can help me do that? Newsflash, that was the Raven Group. That's where I met Karen.
Oh.
That was the Raven Group.
So you spun that around, because I was about to say that's going to be a hard sell.
And look, real talk. Did I get that money back? And then some, by a factor. With the clarity I had, I got that back by I have not spent a nanosecond thinking, man, I should have gone to that other job that paid me 10% more than my previous job at the NFL. No, the Raven Group was a perfect segue in my career at the time. It was worth every penny and more that I was paid. I mean, people have to look at the equity, the value in a job as not just being what it pays you. And let's keep it a buck. You got to stop thinking about your consumerist lifestyle helping you make bad career decisions. Okay, yeah. Because I was in a mansion in Montclair. Stephen Colbert lived down the street. Michael Strahan's house was down the street. Carla Harris was 2 houses down. I lived next to the headmaster of one of the top independent schools in the country. And then I went to Bethesda and I rented. And I had friends come over like, say, bro, did you fall off? What's going on? What is this? Right? You're renting a townhouse. But it was a reboot in my career. And that reboot, again, paid incredible dividends as I sit in my waterfront condo in Lisbon, Portugal. I mean, come on. Like you got to think in the totality of your circumstances, as we say in the law, and not just think, I am due that VP role because I was senior director. That is your ego. And in these moments right now, your ego is going to betray you. So many people get laid off and they are bruised from their ego. And they're like, I'm going to show that company, that boss, I'm going to get a bigger job at a competitor. That job never comes because the tectonic shifts that created your layoff, newsflash, are impacting that competitor. And they don't think, let me do consulting. Why don't I take a lateral role? Why don't I switch from corporate to nonprofit or nonprofit to government or government to nonprofit? They think too much in a linear fashion. And so if we're in a dynamic, disruptive economy, your strategy has to be dynamic and disruptive. The simple mantra I use in my own career is when change impacts you, to survive change, you have to move as fast as the change is impacting you. To thrive, you've got to move faster than the changes that are impacting you. Otherwise, the change is going to subsume you. So if this moment is that big of if it's Katrina sitting in your house saying, I'm going to ride it out and I'll be in the grocery store on Monday when the water subsides, is a failed strategy. So I'm encouraging people just to think creatively, not wildly, but think creatively. How can I deploy my skills, my professional assets in the market while taking care of the real-time concerns I have about income, tuition, taking care of elderly parents, mortgages, all the real stuff we have to deal with? There's still a way to do that provides you clarity so that you don't have so much disruption in your career. You can stay the 5 or 10 years because you're a fit, as opposed to switching jobs every 2 years. Switching jobs every year and a half is like getting divorced. It is a wealth killer. It's a wealth killer.
Yeah. I like that. For me, what you're saying also is like giving folks more possibility and more options instead of just like, I have to land this specific job in this specific industry with this type of organization. It's like, I can build a whole lot of different things that create a portfolio that allows me to still, have my greatest hits.
I'll give you an example. I'm sure he won't mind me saying this. He's retired. So my brother is a retired academic and nonprofit leader in the education equity space. He worked for Atlanta Public Schools. Atlanta Public Schools, as you may know, had a massive cheating scandal in the 2000s. He was in the firmament of people, or he was the head of research and accountability for the Atlanta Public Schools. And so a lot of people, him included, thought this was a political attack on a Black-run school system. But people went to jail. It was big news. So he resigns. He's trying to get a new job. He can get consulting work. He's getting consulting work, but he can't get back into the senior leadership in the superintendency of other school districts. Why? He has a scarlet letter. So we talk on the phone, and I say, newsflash, big bro, you're not going to get a job at a superintendency of a public system for the next decade. It's a scarlet letter. No one's going to hire you. As a search consultant, I can tell you, they'll put you on a slate, but somebody else will be blemish free and they will get the job. He's like, yeah, that's been my case for the last 3 searches I've been on. I said, you need to replot yourself in a new market. Get out of Atlanta. DC has an entire firmament of educational opportunities, consulting firms, the federal government, Maryland, DC, Virginia, state education departments, nonprofits, universities. It's a whole universe. It's the epicenter. I said, why don't you look for jobs up there? He's like, okay, I'll think about it. 90 days later, he winds up being the deputy executive director of the College Success Foundation and spent a decade in that organization, leaving as its president. It transformed his career. So what did he do? He just thought out of the box, like not what's next for you, but the firmament of opportunities that might be available to you in a different geography, a different function, a different industry, as a lateral move that makes you uncomfortable. If you're doing a job search right now and you're not uncomfortable, you're not doing it right.
Mm. I love that. The reframing of like versus like instead of running away from something, like running towards it and being intentional about what that
Exactly.
thing is.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Well, I do want us to also move into our favorite segment because I feel like this will be really fun with you, Rory, our do that and don't do that segment.
Uh-oh.
So Ani and I will have some scenarios for you, and you will tell us if this is something folks should do or don't do.
Okay. I'm ready for my violent reaction.
So I'll start us off, and then Ani, we can go back and forth. So, do that or don't do that, Rory. Should job seekers share how long they've been in the job search or unemployed on LinkedIn?
No, because you are never unemployed. You're
Ooh,
never unemployed.
say more.
The minute you get laid off, you are now the president of your own consulting firm. And that's what you've been doing.
Right.
That's what you've been doing. So no, you're never unemployed. You may not be working for a corporation or organization that is chartered in the state, but you're not unemployed.
Okay, so don't do that.
Don't do that.
Okay. My question is, do that or don't do that. Take a little bit of creative license with your resume. Maybe add a bit of color. Put a little pizzazz, special sauce on some of your accomplishments, things like that.
Ani, what is hell to the no for 400? No, 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 no. And this is my favorite, one of my favorite topics about careers is the whole resume thing. Continuing the music analogy, your LinkedIn is your discography. You should have a lot on LinkedIn. LinkedIn allows you to do all of your bullet points for your organization you've worked at, a summary, endorsements, the most underutilized part of LinkedIn, your recommendations from people that know you. It's a free way of getting references. If that's the case, then your resume becomes your greatest hits. I want to say this loudly and clearly across the mountaintops of the world. Please stop spending so much time on your resume. Please stop doing text boxes, 4 fonts, different colors in your sorority colors like nobody cares, okay? The reality is your resume is a specific moment in time document read by a specific audience, hiring managers and recruiters. What do? I look at resumes all day. It's like having a mole on your arm and putting some glitter around it to go to the dermatologist. What is this? I look at moles all day. You need to do all that. I know what it is. It's not cancerous. Go get some Absorbine Junior. Call it a day. Okay. Your resume is a document I am going to read after I've seen your LinkedIn profile, after I put your name in Google, after I put your name in an AI app. I know who you are. So your resume is a document I am going to skim. I'm going to skim. People are out here with Gucci resumes and Stacey Adams interviews. Okay. I need y'all to stop. I need you to stop. I need you to stop. Okay. I need you to stop. Your resume should be 2 pages. It should be error free. There are apps that can help you do it. Please, let's emphasize the resume and let's focus on your LinkedIn profile and your interview. So, Ani, what is hell to the no for 400 on the goofy resume? You're not in 7th grade. You don't need glitter and ponies and hearts on your resumes.
What about the AI generated image on the resume? No?
Of the person.
Yes, people are using AI to like create professional headshots.
This is the daily double on the jeopardy of resumes. I'm going to win. No. De-emphasize the resume. Okay. For people that are in a job search, they think I'm memorializing my career in this singular document, the charter of my professional landscape. It's not. I'm reading 30 of them a day and I'm skimming them.
Yeah.
I noticed a few things immediately. Number one, it's too long. You're not the president of Spelman, okay? I don't need a CV. I don't need the 15 articles you've written about child education policy. I need 2 pages. 2 pages. Thank you. I need numbers and data. I need the more recent experiences to be flushed out. I need to know the leadership competencies you have. I do not need to know that you like ponies and Ed Sheeran. Like, I don't need to know all that. I'm sorry. This is a little pet peeve of mine, as you can see.
I see. Good enough. Very practical. So don't do that. Don't sauce up the resume.
No.
Okay, here's another one. Do that or don't do that. Should you send the thank you email or note as follow-up to your interview, or ask for feedback after an interview process?
Yes to the first, yes to the second, but it's specific. So you should not only send an email as follow-up, you should send an email to every single person you've interviewed with, and you should highlight what you talked about. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate my time interviewing at the Raven Group. I especially loved our conversation about how inclusion is spreading across sustainability and the work the firm is doing with Green 2.0. I look forward to next steps. For me, the recruiter, right? If I'm recruiting you and you met the client, then yes, do you have any feedback? Most recruiters are lazy. They only want to spend time with the candidates that are advancing. But I would tell the recruiter, the hiring person, when you start the search, say, I'm really interested in this process. Promise me one thing, no matter what happens, you'll give me some feedback. Put them on the spot and make them commit that they're going to give you feedback. It can be very helpful. Early in my career, I was being recruited to be a chief diversity officer. And twice for roles I really wanted, I came up short. And the feedback I got was, the role you think this is, that this giant framework, this global framework for change and inclusion, it's actually like this. And so not only it helped me understand why I didn't get the job, it helped me understand why I'm probably not a fit for that kind of role, and that I was better suited to be a consultant, because I could have, an expansive perspective as a private consultant, but a company was going to put me kind of in a box in these roles. And I didn't want to be in even a big box. I wanted to be, a limited, infinite amount of possibility. And that feedback was very helpful for my career.
My last one is do that or don't do that. Apply for multiple jobs at an organization.
What is more intense than the hell to the no for the daily double? I'm trying to figure out what is a meme I can do.
Passionate about working for that company.
Absolutely not. I feel like a parent. I feel like my child is coming to me like, can I buy this, spiked headband for $7,000 at Versace? No. So here's the problem with that. I used to work at the NFL. I was the head of talent at the NFL, and the NFL was a popular organization for people to work at. People would apply to every job. Really? You're qualified to be the SVP of events and run the Super Bowl and to be the coordinator in the mailroom? You'll take both? One pays $1 million, the other pays $60,000? That's interesting. No, you shouldn't do that. You should not do that. There comes a point in your career where there is a diminishing return on applications for jobs. I believe that is plus or minus around the age of 35, around the 12 to 15 year mark in your career, where you are likely in middle management, you're at a senior manager, director level. Those roles can be qualified, assessed, and allocated based on an application. In 20 years of executive search, doing vice president and above recruiting, I've not once got a candidate from an application. Not once. Not once. It's many times a compliance scenario for the company or organization. And do you really think that nonprofit job or that head of social engagement for that company that pays $400,000, that they're just going to see what's out there and put that on the market? You don't think somebody's talking to their colleagues or their network about that opportunity? So the way to get a job, to keep it simple, is the power of your network. Up until you are 35, it's what you know. The job application can vet that. Up until 45, it's who knows you. It's your network. Past 45, it's who knows you. So the first one is competency. The second one, who you know is your network. The third one, who knows you, is reputation. So use that accordingly, I think, in your job search. What you know, who knows you, and figure out where you are on that continuum. And if you're 45 and you're applying to jobs online, good luck. It's, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's like going to a bar trying to find the fall of your children. I mean, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah. Highly, highly unlikely, but not
Possible.
impossible.
And your auntie in the 1950s met your uncle when he was playing darts in Tupelo, Mississippi. That does not mean that you're gonna go to Buffalo Billiards and find, the love of your life. I could be Gen X and I'm out of date, but I don't think that's gonna work.
Oh my goodness. We're crushing folks' hopes and dreams, Rory.
Please.
Yes.
I'm here to teach the truth to the young Black youth.
Well, we love it. If you needed a dose of truth without any chaser, here it is.
There you go. Listen, I have a platform at mysovereignpath.com. It's called The Blueprint. And it is everything I know about how to get a job transition, how to successfully take a job transition as a mid-career professional or an executive, people that are 35 and up, to dispel some of the rumors, the myths, the bad practices that are out there that actually don't work. People have really bad, they allocate energy toward the wrong things. They focus on the resume, not the interview. On the interview, people don't know how to answer competency-based questions. They don't know how to do follow-up. They don't know how to manage and leverage the hiring manager at the company or organization and the recruiter and what roles they play in the decision process. They completely wing their references. They are unprepared for a case study that is often what distinguishes the finalists from each other in a search. And then they just show up to work without any sense of how they're going to onboard themselves. They think, oh, the company's going to onboard me. What are you doing to onboard yourself? So there's a whole lot of best practices that I've tried to organize and make it in a digital format with literally me talking like this in front of a camera, walking you through these points over 3 hours so you can optimize your job search and get success. If it's a competitive economy right now, there are few jobs, more people than jobs. You have to win this game of inches, and everything helps. So it's at mysovereignpath.com.
And we will be sure to link that in the show notes so folks can go there. Well, this has been a great conversation. Let's wrap up with some final thoughts and takeaways. Rory, do you want to start? What's your final thought, final piece of advice for our listeners?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for steering this conversation. I think if it's helpful, it's because you guys ask the right sorts of questions, even in the fun way, I think, to really get at what you should and shouldn't do. This is something that takes a job search like this in this market takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of emotional energy. So I don't want to make light of the fact that this can be a traumatic experience. Of the 300,000 Black women that were let go, I mean, all or 95% of them were let go without cause. Like, they did not perform badly. They show up to work on Monday. By Friday, you have to go. Yeah. It is difficult to then go about your job search and show up to the next interview confident without giving yourself some grace psychologically. And I tell my clients, get to proximity to the things that bring you joy. Your grandmother, your partner, your kids, baking, cycling, whatever it is, reading, your sorority, homecomings, whatever it is, stay close to the things that give you joy to fortify you through this path. But it does take a lot out of you, and you have to set realistic expectations. That's number one. Number two is the lessons learned from this moment are, if you are not hearing about job opportunities, it is evidence that you are under networked in your career. You should be attracting opportunity to you throughout your career, as opposed to, I get a job, I get laid off, now I'm at a standing start, I've got 27 people on my LinkedIn list, and now I got to go find a job. That is extremely difficult to do. So even as you try to ramp up and expand your network and call your people on your advisory board of your career and your colleagues, the lesson learned for the rest of your career is never be caught like this off guard. Always be networking. Always be in the throes of inside information about the next opportunities, what companies, what organizations are doing, so that you're not caught flat-footed again.
Great. Thank you. Ani, your final thoughts?
I think along those lines, just thinking about operating from a space of abundance and possibility, and just to be thinking about what are you running towards. I think it's very easy when you do have that urgency of like, I need a new job, to say, I will take whatever. But to Rory's point, that whatever can set you back even further. So just constantly be orienting yourself to what are you running towards.
I love that. Yeah, I think my final takeaway is that we have the power to create the life we want. And I think a lot of the advice that you shared today, Rory, for me is like, you are only as limited as you want to be. Like, you have the power to create as many options as works for you and your lifestyle. And so, yes, the market is tough right now, but it just is an opportunity to be even more creative than before. So hopefully folks can get in the driver's seat of their careers following this conversation. Well, thank you, Rory, for joining us today. It was really fun to have you on the podcast. Appreciate your time. And for our listeners, if you enjoyed today's conversation, we invite you to leave us a review of the podcast. We also invite you to share this podcast with any peers or colleagues that you think would find it helpful. And if you'd like to reach Ani and I directly, feel free to email us at thedon'tdothatpod@gmail.com. And Rory, before we give our final outro, just wanted to know if there's any way that you want to leave like contact information, or if folks want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
I have a podcast on YouTube called The Sovereign Path. It's the only podcast of its type. And my coaching scenarios and options are available at mysovereignpath.com. And then for companies and organizations looking to recruit great purpose-driven leaders, protegesearch.com is our search firm web address.
Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, until next time, remember, don't do that.